12:05 in the afternoon here on the Talk to Me Network, home of helping seniors of Brevard. It's Wednesday, and that means it is time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get things underway as we introduce the host of the program, also the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is none other than Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, and happy Wednesday to you and to everyone who's joining us in right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. We gather around the radio at lunchtime on Wednesdays right here every week for Helping Seniors Radio. Good information for seniors, those who love and care for them. Welcome also to those who are listening online at WEJF.net and those who will catch this later as a podcast, because you can find this on everything from iTunes to Spotify to iHeartRadio, wherever you get a podcast. Just look for Helping Seniors. And today in the studio with us, I'm going to introduce our guests, and then we're going to actually take a moment to honor a couple of folks in the studio who, this is really a special day. But let me say hello, first of all, to a longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. She runs a company that everybody sometimes gets our names confused because they are similar. Helping Seniors of Brevard is the nonprofit organization that Joe Steckler founded all those years ago. We're now in our 12th year of service to Brevard County, operating the county senior information helpline and doing a lot of outreach work with education, just why we do the radio show, the TV shows, publish the center section in Senior Scene magazine, and so on, is to try to help seniors really get ahead of the aging curve. And I'm talking about Jennifer Barton and her company, with a similar name, Seniors Helping Seniors. And what you guys do is hire seniors and have them help seniors in their homes, right?
We do, and it's a lot of fun.
And welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And also in the studio with us is none other than Medicare expert, I like to call him that, Jerry Hadlock Jr., who's been doing this an awful long time and knows all the ins and outs of everything from part A, B, C, D, E. I don't know how we could just sing the whole alphabet song.
They have their own alphabet.
We're going to talk a little bit about that as we get into the show. But today is really a special day. And for those of us in the studio, we want, and hopefully at home, we really want to honor two of the folks that you don't hear of as often, but they're the guys behind the scenes that keep all this rolling. I'm talking about John Harper, who, just like Jennifer Barton, you guys are both longtime members of the board of directors for Helping Seniors. And John, technically, you're the vice president, but also your compadre, Jim Votro, who you guys keep the radio show running. But we really want to honor you for your service to the country, because we were talking before the show that today is a very important day in Vietnam War history, because I think we're celebrating, if I have this right, we're celebrating the 50th, or honoring maybe is a better word to use, honoring the 50th anniversary of the day that we were able to finally leave Saigon. Am I saying that right, John?
Yeah, this is National Vietnam War Veterans Day. 50 years ago today, you're right, Kerry, is when we left Saigon. A very emotional day and a very moving one. And kind of like many things in our lives, there are certain events that take place, such as 9/11, JFK being shot, things like that, that many of us, if you're old enough to remember, and I certainly remember the last day of our involvement in Vietnam and the helicopters hovering over the embassy in Saigon. I guess that's now called Jim Ho Chi Minh City. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is.
And those people who were trying to get out as quickly as they could. And I also remember on this particular day, very sad, when a Marine lost his life guarding the embassy. And I felt so bad that almost brings a tear to my eye right now, as to this brave Marine standing guard and was killed on the very last day.
Well, the last man, the last day, they're the last of everything. But it really signifies today is the 50th year of that departure. And as a result of that, there are a couple of things that in every Vietnam vet's mind that are part of your memories. And that is the first day you got in country and the last day you left. No matter when you got there, no matter when you left, if you left and how you left, that was important too. But when you got there, everything was all about this. Spirit in the sky. You had Norman Greenbaum, and you just see those helicopters coming in on those hot LZs, just drifting in and drifting out. And, that was a real important one-hit wonder, but that was a real thing that everybody experienced, no matter where you were, no matter what part of the country you were in. That's a very, very important thing. And all I can say is a lot of the music that we have in our oldies thing now, in our oldies records, a lot of that music is basically the type of thing that kind of got people through the war. And when I say that, I'm being very serious. And the other thing that was probably the most important, absolutely the most important thing that we had, musically speaking, was this one. That was a big hit back in 1965, but no matter when you got there, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 70, all the way through to 73, that was the mantra. That was the tune that everybody was playing. Because no matter what it was, everybody tried to be the consummate soldier. But when you got a chance to get out of there, that's what everybody did. And then when you got home, that was another story, because that had been a nation in flux because of the war. And, a lot of people never really got the thanks that they deserved.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. I have, being friends with you fellows, but also some other fellows that I've talked to who served at that time. They said it was really tough because, first of all, in their particular case, they were required to go. It was the draft and all of that. And then they come back and they're really being hated upon for just doing what they were required to do. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, they were just following what they were required to do. And I feel so bad. I can't, I was a kid at the time, so I can't really recall it as an adult. But I do remember how much tension there seemed to be about all that at that time.
Well, there was a lot of tension, Kerry, Fink, at that time. Race relations, I think, were at their lowest between white and black. And it was just a horrendous time in our country. Families were divided over the war. I certainly have heard over the years where brothers and fathers and mothers went their own ways because of Vietnam and their disagreement on what should or should not have been done. But in the end, we lost a lot of men and women. Very tragic. And Jim, we've got to get out of this place certainly was very appropriate at that time in Vietnam.
Agreed. And this is the day that we can celebrate 50 years of getting out of that place. And that's what we're basically doing. Now, this is actually something to be celebrated in perpetuity as of the Congress who set up this particular day back in 2017. So a lot of things going on, a lot of memories, a lot of...
It's a day to remember, and I'm glad we have this National Vietnam War Veterans Day, Jim and Kerry, and your guest as well, and our listeners. And I hope this will continue to build and make it a major point of our history, something that we'll never forget, right. And just move forward from here and hopefully not repeat the same mistakes.
Amen to that. Well, from this side of the broadcast booth glass, we're all saluting you, John Harper and Jim Votro, saying thank you for your service. Thank you to all who serve in the armed forces. Jennifer, as we talk about seniors and things like that, our own president and founder Joe Steckler. He's retired Navy captain, and he got into the senior business, if you will, or I guess the business of caring for seniors, because he always talks about his last command in the Navy, where he was in charge of the Navy's retirement home in Gulfport, Mississippi, and it's given him kind of a lifelong passion. Even when he and Terry retired to Satellite Beach, he couldn't retire, so he gets Brevard Alzheimer's going, builds those Joe's clubs, and then as you all well know, 12 years ago, he said we got to do more for seniors, so he creates a second nonprofit called Helping Seniors, and we've been hard at work at that ever since then, trying to serve seniors through the information line and do all the things that we can to make life a little better for seniors in our county.
Absolutely. And I credit a lot of Joe's connections and his stick-to-itness to his military background.
Yeah.
And to that, he was a graduate of the Naval Academy.
That's right.
So having all of those connections and the heart for his country, but for his fellow man, has really served him well.
Yeah.
And thank God for Joe for our Brevard County seniors, because we have that senior helpline now. We have all of those resources that help our seniors because of Joe.
No, you're saying it so well, and thank God for Joe, and every senior in Brevard County should thank God for Joe, because he is a guy who's tirelessly fighting for seniors. In fact, one of Joe's things, ever since I ever met him, he talks about every senior and their families need to work on. Everybody has to make what he calls their own aging plan. And I remember at first I thought, I don't quite get that term. And it took me a little while. I finally started to really pick up on it, because then I realized we're here in Florida. So we understand somebody tells us, what's your hurricane plan? Does not mean you want a hurricane. It doesn't mean you're looking forward to the hurricane. It means you want to be prepared for what the hurricane might bring to you. And so as we talked about it over the years, we've really come to understand, you're a whole lot better off if you're prepared for all eventualities than if you're just, hoping it will bypass you like ostrich in the sand. And so as we've gone along in the Helping Seniors world, we actually coined kind of just to make it a little bit more fun and perhaps a little bit less intimidating. We say, let's just help you get your ducks in a row. And Jennifer and Jerry, you guys have both heard us talk about that, but there's the corollary that we really want to get in on today's radio show, because as we've started to we do these monthly seminars. In fact, Jennifer, you were just speaking at one Monday, talk about the Senior Resource Center. It's like an opportunity to get information in the hands of seniors.
I really appreciated being part of that panel, and that was so much fun, Kerry. And it may not sound to a listener like that would be a fun thing to do on a Monday morning, but it was really phenomenal. We had a good group of people who are looking at getting their ducks in a row. And we had so many great questions, a lot of discussion, sharing of ideas. So it was a great group of people that got a lot of good information, walked out with a bagged lunch. But really it was a social time. And I think we all learned a lot. We learned from each other on the panel, but we also learned from the seniors that were there, sharing some ideas and what their hot buttons are. It far exceeded my expectations.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And I think that's the general, I mean, when I look at the photos that I see out on Facebook, it really looked like standing room only. It looked like everybody was engaged and really making the most of the time in that room. And that's part of the effort that we want to do, because, we've always heard that expression, it takes a village to raise a child. But really, if we're going to honor and take care of our seniors, it really takes a village coming together to do that. So that's why that whole point that I want us to get into today is so important about don't try this on your own, because we think we're smart, and we think now with we can go online, and now they tell us about artificial intelligence, which that word artificial might make us take a pause anyway. But we think it's so easy to just hunt something down on the internet, do a search, and we'll have all the answers we need. But I don't know about you. I like to think I'm somewhat smart, but a lot of times I'll do an internet search on something that I really don't know a whole lot about, and I'll walk away more confused, because we always know the first rule of the internet: everything you read on it is absolutely true. And so what actually happens after you do a search, you wonder, like, is this legit or is this not legit? And you have all these things, all these questions. So you actually can walk away with more questions than you answered when you went to do that search in the first place. And Jennifer, I mean, I want to kind of talk about what you guys do, because you so often are that first help in the home for a senior. And so what's happening, I assume, a lot of cases, correct me if I'm not saying this right, but a lot of times you're dealing with a family who's adjusting to mom or dad or aunt or uncle or whoever it is, getting older, and they're new at this. But this is not new for you, because you guys, this is what you do every single day.
Absolutely. And that's why I love helping seniors going out and doing these programs to help people get their ducks in a row, because we see that need on a regular basis. We are often the very first time someone has had help in the house, because at Seniors Helping Seniors, we're a homemaker companion license in the state. So that means we do a lot of things on a day-to-day basis, but we don't do personal care or hands-on care. So we are, usually the first people coming in and helping with a little transportation, maybe some meal preparation, light housekeeping. And we're the first time the families really sat down and talked to someone and said, okay, what does this look like? And we realized that some have a plan and they're doing great, and then others have no idea how any of this works. They don't know what Medicare can do for them. They don't know what an assisted living facility looks like. They still have that image of that really scary, nursing home from 30, 50 years ago. So they are scared and a little intimidated maybe. So coming in alongside and helping them through that process is something that we've gotten very good at, and being able to say, hey, go do that lunch and learn at Buena Vida on a Monday afternoon. It's going to give you a lot of good information. Here are the tools, here are the resources, through helping seniors to help this, get that plan into place, help that journey a little bit, make it a little bit easier, because we want to have that plan in place beforehand so that we're not making these critical decisions under duress.
You said it so well. That's Jennifer Barton, who is the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors here in the county. And, as you were talking about that, I was thinking some of the things that you were saying are so appropriate, because it dovetails exactly with our other guest in the studio today, Jerry Hadlock, who's a Medicare expert. And, Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, has a statement, which I love. She goes, how do you know what you don't know? And so, I'm thinking about what happens to most of us as we, either as we approach age 65 or each year when our mailbox gets flooded with information about Medicare. And then we are trying to read through all this fine print, trying to figure out what makes sense. We don't really even have the base of knowledge to know even the right questions to ask. And so we struggle through these things when it would be just as easy to call somebody who really knows what's going on. And I guess you kind of find that as you sit down with folks, sometimes people sort of know where they're going and maybe are right on it. And a lot of times they're just like in the weeds, and you've got to try to help get them out of it, right?
Yes, that's very true. Sometimes they're very deep in the weeds, and other times they know enough, to make a decision. And I just help them along, no matter what, what's best for them, whether it's a supplement, advantage, or a drug plan.
See, that's one of the things that I want to talk about is the fact that you are technically independent Medicare insurance agent. So from the standpoint, you're not beholden to any one plan or one idea that's out there, because your expertise and the way you work is that you can look at all the different plans that are out there and then zero in on the one that's going to be the best for the person that you're trying to help, right?
That is totally true. Even if I'm not with that company and it's still the best thing for them, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think as we talk about these things, there's just like so many nuances, right? Because you may have been happy with your coverage, but every year, I guess the insurance companies, the government changes certain rules, and something that may have been covered now all of a sudden isn't. And if you just let it roll over, you could find yourself in big trouble.
Yes, it's the old thing: if you assume something.
We know what that word assume means, right? Yeah, and I wanted to really get you to talk for a minute about that. Talk about the process if somebody calls you, because, again, the topic of our show today on Helping Seniors Radio is don't try this on your own. That's our corollary to this. Let's get your ducks in a row. But there is so much good help that's out there. Sure. And, I get afraid every time I see one of those commercials on TV and it says, just call us. It's some famous person that you really liked from some TV show. Right. And they're like, just call us and tell us your zip code and we'll get you all set up. Mm-hmm. And then you call and you're talking to somebody in Omaha or something, and they're saying, oh, well, it looks like that doctor is right next to you, but they're talking Titusville and you live in Palm Bay, because it looks fine on a map, right?
Totally correct. I've actually had someone just recently, their doctor's in Orlando, and that's who they recommended.
Wow.
It's like, what?
You got to drive an hour and a half.
Exactly, to go to Orlando, because they don't know the area.
Right.
Like you said, they're from a whole other state. And then it's also whoever answers that phone on the other end. They could be super great or they could be somewhat new. So I've been doing this since 2009. I've seen every scenario you could put out there.
I'm sure. Jennifer and Jerry, that's one of the things, both of you guys, and it's like helping seniors. We are 100% local to Brevard County. Yep. So I'm not suggesting that by any stretch we know everything, but if we know anything, it's what's going on here in Brevard County, right?
That's
absolutely.
True. Mm-hmm. If I don't have the answer to something, I'll go find it. I'll call Medicare, I'll call Social Security, whatever we got to do. I'll get the answer.
And so this is the point that I want to make. What does it cost? Your cost to the consumer is FREE.
That is true.
So why is somebody trying to read all these pamphlets and all this, or worse yet, they're on the internet searching around trying to make sense. Does this apply to my county? Is my doctor part of this plan? Is my prescription part of this plan? These are all questions that you're able to sit down with a person or the family with that person and figure out what's the best given the custom needs of that situation.
That is true. So it's funny you bring that up. I've had a couple times when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I can realize we should have another person at this appointment. Could be a wife, daughter, whoever, because sometimes two heads are better than one.
Sure.
So I prefer that, actually, because it's really nothing but education. I'm educating it on what road we're going to run down. There's 3 roads: original Medicare, an Advantage plan, or a Medigap or a supplement. Those are the 3 avenues. And we have to figure out which one's the best one for that person.
And I think for most of us, we're not even sure. Like we were joking at the top of the show where we said that we could almost sing the alphabet song because it's Medicare, A, B, C, D, and all of that. And yet most of us, I think if we just took a clipboard out and we walked over to the mall in Melbourne and started walking around and asking people, tell me about Medicare Plan Part G, you'd get like deer in the headlights look, because we don't know. Why would we need to know?
Exactly. That's not their expertise.
Right.
It's not what they do in life. So you want to, same old thing, you want to meet with somebody who's been doing it and that's all they do.
So this brings to mind Monday's Lunch and Learn. We were talking about staying, well, that was hard to say, staying safe and at home. And one of the things is very important is taking your medications correctly.
Yes.
Taking all of your medications and taking them correctly. And remembering to take them sometimes is difficult. As we got discussing that, we were discussing also making sure you have a medication list that goes from doctor to doctor to doctor. Correct. And how a lot of seniors will, especially when they hit the donut hole, maybe get medications from different places, which makes it harder because they're not using the same pharmacy. Correct. And so there is no one list and how important that is. So, of course, somebody raised their hand and said, well, what is the donut hole? And of course,
that's a big discussion by itself.
It really is. It really is. And we did not have a Medicare person in the room at the time. So I gave a very basic, very brief description of what it is. But I said, you really have to talk to your Medicare person to explain, because if you're not in the donut hole, thank goodness. But you don't know when you're going to be, and that's a huge thing.
All right. Well, we're going to be back with more of this conversation, second half of Helping Seniors Radio. See you in a minute.
12:33 is our time on this Monday afternoon. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. I'm John Harper. Let's get back to more of the show with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. Thanks again. And welcome back to the second half of Helping Seniors Radio right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And welcome back if you're online with us at WEJF.net. And if you're catching this as a podcast, we've been having a rollicking, if I could use that term, a rollicking conversation about don't try this on your own. It's part of the theme that we've always talked about in the Helping Seniors nonprofit charity, where we've talked about the fact that Joe Steckler has always called it making an aging plan, which is your plan for how you might meet some of the challenge that you might face as you grow older kind of head on. And we've been talking with people that I really respect and call experts in their fields of knowledge. We've been talking with Jennifer Barton, who's the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors. Her company is a great company that helps, first of all, they hire a lot of seniors, but then they make sure that they get good help for seniors in their home. It's kind of the first rung on the elements of care that Joe Steckler often talks about. We'll get into that more. And our other guest today is Jerry Hadlock Jr., who is an expert independent Medicare agent and has lots and lots of experience. For you guys, whenever you run into these situations, this is certainly not your first rodeo. So welcome back, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Jennifer, we didn't get a chance before the mid-show break, and I want to make sure to give everybody a moment to grab a pencil and jot down, because you might be a person who's looking for employment. You could be a senior looking for employment. You could be a family or a senior that's looking for some help at home. Or you might be very interested in a really cool product that you guys also have, which is the electronic caregiver, which is a real good tool in all the let's stay safe at home kind of stuff that we were talking about Monday when we did our Senior Resource Center of Brevard Community Information Series event there at Buena Vita. So how would people add into any of that I just said that you'd like to?
Gotcha. So we are looking for caregivers. We are looking for seniors who would love a part-time job that's very flexible. We go with real world experience. So if you have cared for a loved one, a wife, a parent, and you have all of that wonderful experience, that's who we love to hire. And it is a job, but we are very flexible because we know we are hiring seniors, so they might want to go north and see grandkids. We're especially looking for people beachside and in Merritt Island. You can contact us at 321-722-2999. And one thing that came out on Monday, too, as far as the electronic caregiver, you do not have to be a Seniors Helping Seniors client to have the electronic caregiver.
Oh, wow.
That is, they're exclusive. They're not, we'll go out, bring the unit to someone's house, demonstrate how it works. If they want it, we can set it right up right then and there, program it exactly how they want it to be, and then, test it, and it's theirs.
Wow.
And there's no contract, which I love for the electronic caregiver. And the part that I really love about the electronic caregiver is there's a little piece. You take it, put it in your pocket, your purse. You go anywhere with it, it still responds. So Walmart parking lot, taking a hike through Wickham Park, you fall and you're kind of behind the bushes and nobody can see you. You can press the button and they know exactly where you are. GPS satellite location. They come out and help.
Yeah, and a lot of times, not only that, it's just, as we're out and about on our own, just the security fact of knowing that you can get help real close. I mean, we see all this scary stuff on news these days. I mean, it's just nice to know that you'd have that ability. And I know, Jennifer, we've done TV shows where we've actually talked about how deep you can go with this in terms of even some I would call it light medical monitoring, but it can make people with chronic conditions make their lives a whole lot simpler, and simpler for the doctors too.
Oh, absolutely. The technology is amazing, and we're going to see more and more of that.
Sure. As
time goes on. The next step with the electronic caregiver, it does come with some peripherals that people can add on to it, so you can remotely monitor blood pressure, glucose, temperature, pulse ox, weight, so that all of that information is going up to the cloud. It's very secure, but it can be monitored by your doctor, by your whatever healthcare professional you want to have. But there's also a 24/7 EMS certified group that looks at this information. They have protocols of, hey, the blood pressure is a little high. We need to call. What's going on? Did you take your medication? Did you not take your medication? Is there an event, something happening? Let's catch it before something happens.
I just want to add a story because I remember this. They took when my mom was having some real serious medical stuff, they'd taken her to a really high level, kind of like a hospital place. And they would get the nurse would get a call from upstairs because it was like, quote, the telemetry department. And they would call down. They would know something was going on before the nurse would know something was going on. And I think that's a little bit what you're talking about, where these kind of technological advances can really help us stay on top of that. So that's the electronic caregiver. But so you have all these different things, different reasons why people should give you a call. Let's make sure it's Jennifer Barton. The name you want to write down next to this phone number that she's going to give you is Seniors Helping Seniors.
Yes, and our number is 321-722-2999.
Okay. And then we're also talking today in the studio, our good friend Jerry Hadlock, who is a Medicare insurance expert, has been for years. And we were talking about it so you don't get lost in Medicare alphabet soup. You call 1-800-JERRY and say,
right.
help me get this right. Jerry, how do people get in touch with you?
My cell phone, it's 321-720-4526.
And what we're talking about generally today is that you don't have to go this stuff alone. You know, so often I remember just going through stuff with parents and, you go to a hospital. Now mom needs to come home but has to have some help at home. And now you're at a loss because this is the first time you're running into that. And I guess, Jennifer, you see a lot of that happen.
Oh, we do. And we end up explaining to the seniors and to the family how that all works about Medicare-based home health. Okay, you've been to the hospital, you've been to rehab, you're going to go home with Medicare home health. Mm-hmm. And they might not have had their discharge meeting yet, so they don't know that. So they're thinking, oh my gosh. And no, it's okay. Mm-hmm. This Medicare is going to pay for that home health to come in. And this is what that looks like. You do have a choice of companies. They might suggest a company, but you do have some choices there. Mm-hmm. And then typically, I'll say for Seniors Helping Seniors, we'll come in after that because that's a pretty busy time. People in and out, physical therapist, social worker, a nurse. And then we can come in and we'll help after that. And being able to explain that to families and have them, okay, got some peace of mind now. We kind of know how this all works and we can go from there.
And not only that, I think a lot of times too, because you guys are really the eyes, hands, and feet for some families of folks who live down here, but maybe the families up north or in the Midwest or something like that. And they want to make sure mom, dad, aunt, or uncle is doing okay. And they can't get down here at the rate that they would really hope to. And so you guys really become that help for them.
We are. We're kind of hands and feet, eyes on, so that we can call the family and say they're doing great, or we're seeing something that we're not real sure about. We don't like. This is what's happening. Maybe we need to go to a doctor's appointment. Maybe you need to come down and take a look. Because there are changes, so hopefully we can catch and that has happened before where our caregiver has come in and said, I know her now. I've been with her for a year. I can't tell you what's wrong, but something's up.
That is so important what you're talking about because, you have to, if you can start to figure these things out early, there's a whole lot more you can do about these things, right?
Exactly. In that case, they got her right in. She had a UTI, but it was the very, very early stages. We were good to go. And the daughter who was up in New York was so thankful because, she was so in tune to her client. She knew something is off. I don't know what it is, but thankfully, she listened to her gut instinct. They got her into the doctors and prevented a more formidable UTI, thank goodness.
Yeah, and I know Joe, I'm talking about Joe Steckler, our president and founder, he's often talked about, he calls what you guys do, he goes, it's the first rung on the elements of care, meaning that it's a great way to kind of get mom or dad used to having somebody there to help. So if things progress and there's another level of care that's needed, they're not going to be, as resistant to the idea. They're going to say, no, this is somebody to help me, not to threaten me.
Exactly. And that's our goal because a lot of times we are the very first person someone has ever had in their house. And if you've been making your bed for 75 years that same way, we're going to come in and do it the exact same way too. We try to be a very comfortable fit so that they will accept the care at home.
Yeah, and I know, and that's Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, and I want to ask Jerry Hadlock, Medicare expert, a little bit about this too, because what you guys hopefully are getting called like well in advance. Like, I'm trying to get ahead of this, I want to plan this out, but then I guess you guys also get the panic calls like, I just got this bill from the doctor. This is ridiculous. What's going on? I guess you get that too, right?
Yes, I've gotten those calls many a times. And then what I like to do is go out and see them, see the bill, see how we can figure it out.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way we can maybe minimize it or maybe have the insurance step in. I've actually had it where the hospital or the doctor's office didn't even submit it to the insurance or to Medicare.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? You showed your card, right? For whatever reason, it fell through the cracks.
But, but that's the point. Like, we as a consumer, we just open up the mailbox and get this horrifying bill.
Oh, yes.
And then we're like, I can't pay this. And we don't even know that, there could be a problem or something else going on, which is, again, why we keep coming back to don't try this on your own. We were joking a little bit at the beginning of the show where I said, why would somebody not call you? Your price is FREE because you not only that, is because you do have to be careful. Just because something is free does not mean it's going to be in your best interest. So you still got to vet it out, right?
Yes.
But what we're talking about is when you're able to talk with somebody like Jerry Hadlock Jr., who really is like in the weeds. You understand all these different parts of Medicare. Yes. You have to go to school, right, each year to learn what's going on by company, so you understand their products too.
That's true. That is a fun time, by the way. It's right around September. My gosh. I bet it takes me about almost a week because you got to do with each carrier. Yeah. You have to do their modules, then you have to do it with the government.
Well, because that's what I was going to say. Like, if you work for a particular insurance company, it would make sense that you become an expert in that company, and you might know just sort of a little bit about what else is out in the marketplace. But your job is you have to know, like, everything that's out there.
That's right. And I've seen most of everything that's here. Every insurance company in Brevard, I've seen them.
So when somebody sits down with you, and maybe they're smart enough to call you in and say, okay, I don't know where to begin. I'm seeing all this stuff in the mail. What kind of things do you ask them to share with you so that you can help figure out what might be best for them?
In the beginning, I'd talk about what doctors they want to go to or stay with. That's the first thing. The other is what hospital, if you ever had to go to a hospital, where would you prefer to go? Those are really the two main things I look at in the very beginning. And their medications. Yeah. You got to check all their meds. And you want to make sure whatever company we go with or drug plan we go with, that they're being covered.
Yeah, because there's things like formulary, right? Yes. And that's what the insurance company says we're going to cover for you, right?
Yes.
But it could change, like, right? And if you were needing something and it came off the formulary, that could be like big dollars, right?
Correct. That's one thing that can happen. I've actually had people, they kind of ignore it, especially in annual enrollment from October 15th to December 7th. And then at the beginning of the year, the new plans, or they stay on the same one they're at, and then the plan they're on didn't cover their medications. It used to. And they were notified by mail, but they just didn't read it.
Yeah, because we don't read that fine print. We just think it's more junk mail.
Right.
And Jennifer, we were talking too, right? Because we've seen this happen, this donut hole. And you said it came up in the conversation Monday at the resource center because people, you don't run into it, or it may not affect you until all of a sudden it affects you, and then it's a big deal.
It is. And I was sharing on break that it happened to my parents where, they've been thankfully very, very healthy, but then suddenly a couple of years ago, there was a new higher end medication that my dad had to go on. And then same thing with my mom. And all of a sudden they're in the donut hole, and Mom flipped out. What is this? Oh my gosh. Did you see how much they're going to charge us for the drugs? And Mom, we've been talking about this, but it doesn't impact you until it actually impacts you.
It's not real until it hits your house, right?
Then Mom got real creative with how they were doing the medications, and now she knows. Yeah. Every year she goes and makes sure that formulary, what are the changes, and is it going to be covered? Yeah. And that's, we were talking on Monday why it's so important to have one list of medications. Yeah, right. Not only to take to your doctor's offices, each doctor that you go to, right? But also so that, when open enrollment time comes around, you can take a look at all of those medications and see what is my best plan for those medications.
And Jerry, that's something that because you have the experience with all these different carriers, you actually have some way to kind of like look at a calculator and see how it's going to work in each plan based on somebody's medications. Am I saying that right?
No, you are saying that right. So you can actually go to Medicare.gov, put your meds in, and it'll show you if and when you're going to hit that donut hole or coverage gap.
Wow.
Yep, it tells you the extra month.
Wow.
And there's ways to minimize that prior to that event happening. You can get generics, you can do mail order. Those are a couple of ways, or maybe you can use a discount card outside of your insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Medicare makes you get a D as in David, a drug plan, or they'll penalize you later on, but they can't make you use that drug plan.
So really, at the end of the day, we keep saying this over and over. You don't have to get a PhD in this stuff.
No.
You can just call Jerry.
Yeah, right.
You know, so. And then again, like I keep saying, this is the whole point of what we're trying to get across today. There is so much good local expert help. You don't need to call an 800 number. No. You don't need to Google this out. You need to find somebody that you can sit with eyeball to eyeball.
Yep.
Ask the questions you need to ask. You'll know, because you're smart, you'll know that they're looking at you. They have the answers. They know how to research it if they don't, and they're going to help you to the best. Their heart's in the right place, and they're going to help you to the best of their ability. And
the same for me. I'm going to help them no matter what.
Yeah.
So even if the drug plan comes up and I don't represent it, that's the one we're going with.
Right.
Their drugs are covered. They're all on the formulary. That's the one we're going with.
And I'm sure, and Jennifer, I know I've seen you do the same thing. You may get to a place where the services that you guys are able to provide just isn't sufficient or appropriate at a certain level, and then you know who they should probably call next to elevate what needs to happen, right?
Absolutely. We facilitate that. You know, we'll be with a client for a couple of years, and unfortunately there's a decline, and they do need some hands-on care. So we will recommend a couple of companies that we know, we like, we trust. We've worked with them before. They've cared for our own family members or prior clients, that we know we're handing them off to a good source. And then we'll even work with those companies with permission from the client of, right, here's the face sheet, here's what we've learned about them, so that it's a nice handoff. They know kind of what to do, what not to do, you know, where they keep the bread, if it's in the freezer, in the bread drawer, right, so that
right,
you know, those little details are important, so that it is a good handoff, and it's a very comfortable thing for the client.
You know, I was thinking, don't you feel better like if you go to a doctor and the doctor says, well, I need you to see a certain other type of doctor who's a specialist in this particular thing, but I know a really good one. This is the one I would go to myself. Doesn't that make you feel like, okay, I was worried enough about this, but that helps somewhat, and that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
There's a little bit of peace of mind that you get when you get an expert that you trust. So we're actually going to save a minute so we can talk about car raffle and some of the fun things we do on the Helping Seniors side of things. But I want to make sure, this is really important. We've been talking about this idea of don't try it on your own. And Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, like I said, 3 good reasons to give her or her company a call is, number one, maybe I like the way you put it. We're looking for people with the heart of a volunteer, but who don't mind accepting a paycheck, because you hire seniors to do great work for other seniors. You are there to serve seniors in their homes. That's what Seniors Helping Seniors is all about. But then you have this really exciting electronic caregiver program too. So if somebody's into all those things, how do they reach you?
We can be contacted at 321-722-2999.
And Jerry Hadlock, if we haven't hammered on this enough, you don't need to call, that famous person on TV, because he's not even at the call center, I assure you.
No, he is not.
If you call up and say, I want to speak to Captain so-and-so,
right,
you're not going to find him there. You're going to talk to somebody who may be wanting to be helpful, but they just don't know necessarily the area.
Right.
And so you want to talk to somebody who's live and who's local, who could meet you wherever you need to be met,
right,
and figure this out so it is really for your benefit. Jerry, how do people get in touch with you about Medicare or any kind of insurance questions like that?
It would be my cell phone at 321-720-4526.
So again, the moral of today's story is don't try this on your own. But here's one thing you can try on your own. It is the Helping Seniors Car Raffle. In fact, there's no way you could win the Helping Seniors Car Raffle if you don't try this on your own. So that's the one, like, how they always put the little asterisk. What is the Helping Seniors Car Raffle, you ask? Jennifer, what is the Helping Seniors Car Raffle, I ask?
It is a whole lot of fun. So this year is very exciting because we've actually added another car to the lineup. So you have a choice of which car. If you win, they pull your ticket. You get a choice between a Camaro, a Challenger, a Mitsubishi this year for the first time, a Kia, that's a Highlander.
It's a Sportage. Yes.
The Mitsubishi Highlander, right?
Outlander.
You're
good.
I'm getting closer.
I'm getting
closer. And then the Miata. Now, out of all of those 5, of course,
you're going to take
The Dodge.
She says as team captain of Dodge. Jerry, have I asked you, do you have a car in this race?
No, but I would take the Camaro.
Aha. Well, that's what our winner did last year. She was local. She's right here from West Melbourne. She said, I want the Camaro, and she's driving around this beautiful blue Camaro. But I know, Jennifer, this is the last year, they say, for the Challenger. So I'm thinking somebody might take the Challenger this year.
And they're also, I heard it on the news, they're also saying some of the Camaros, too. It's going to be the last year.
I heard that. So we'll see, because they kind of were saying that last year, and then they gave like what is it, the executioner date, and then they give the governor's reprieve or whatever, and I guess they got another year. I don't know how it works, but so anyway. But the cool thing is, in the car raffle, you pick the car you want to win. And it's a lot of fun because you buy the ticket. It supports the work of helping seniors. In fact, as a nonprofit, we can go no further than you help us to go. So your donation is extremely important. When you buy a ticket, one is $25 or $5 is a $100 donation. All of that goes here locally to support helping seniors of Brevard County and the work that we do, helping the 25% over 65. I learned a new number. I used to say 25% over 65, and then I heard 30% over 60, and the 50% who are over 50 in our county. So you get a ticket, you do that, you pick which car you win when you win. While you don't have to be present, Saturday, October 7th is a night at the museum. Jennifer, talk about the night at the museum.
You want to be there. It is a fabulous night. For $25 donation to get in, you can't beat it because there is wine, beer, soda, water, food, and you get to go in and see Mark Pylock's personal auto collection. Every year there's more cars. They change things around, so there's always something new to see. It is an amazing museum full of history. There's a lot of signs, gas pumps, motorcycles.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's an amazing array of awesomeness to go in and see. It is so much fun. It's a great date night.
Yeah.
Tickets are a great way to recognize your coworkers. I had a good friend of mine who bought tickets for her whole office.
Yeah.
To send them as a way to say thank you for all the hard work that they've done. It's a great birthday present or stocking stuffer to be able to give to someone to say, here, not only can you win a car, you get to go to the museum, have a great night out, and it's to benefit a wonderful organization.
Absolutely. And so you can get tickets by calling Nancy Deerdorf on our senior information helpline, 321-473-7770. I'll say that again so you can grab a pencil and jot it down. The phone number, if you want to call in and get your tickets that way, is area code 321 473-7770. If you're on the internet, you can just go to Helping Seniors Car Raffle, or another really cool way to get those is get a hold of Jennifer Barton, because you've got tickets at your office, and or get a hold of Jerry Hadlock, because he's got tickets. And so you guys are duly authorized deputies or whatever in the Helping Seniors Car Raffle ticket sales. But as we like to say, you got to be in it to win it. And put October, if you're in town, we get this question from Snowbirds. Well, we may be back up in Michigan. That's fine. You could still win, because we do this Facebook Live. When we pull that ticket, the winner is the winner. But if you're in town, don't miss the fun of being at the museum. Jerry, are you going to be there this year, I hope?
Yes, I'll do my best to be there.
It's such a fun night. It's festive, and Mark and Tatiana, they're just like the greatest hosts in the world, and it's so much fun because she gets in there, and this is Mark's wife, she gets in there, reaches in, pulls out that number, and Mark is like the best ever at calling out the winning number. And it was so funny because remember when we were there last year, he called out the last number, and it was all quiet. And we thought, well, okay, maybe the winner's not here. And then we see over in the corner all these people poking at this lady going, that's you.
It was so much fun to see her walk up to the stage and to accept, the award. It was just, she was thrilled. And so it's so much fun to have somebody there. Yes, we'll call you if you didn't, if you weren't present, right. We've called. But boy, having them there is just so much fun to watch.
Yep. So we'll see you at the car raffle, and we'll see you next Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. As we come back for more Helping Seniors Radio. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jennifer, twice. Thank you, Jerry, twice. See you next week.